So I was stationed in the Philippines shortly after Mount Pinatubo erupted. And I got stories that you can't imagine about the Philippines, the jungle, the volcanic wastelands, the peoples, the sex, the beers. You know, so many beers, the drugs. A lot of drugs there too. But we're going to talk about the trip from Subic Bay, where I was stationed, to Manila. We're stationed there, and we've been there for a few months. It was a 9-month station in the Philippines on a small detachment group from the main body of our battalion. And I'm there, and I got 2 days off. Some of the other people that I knew, 2 other people, my roommates, and one of the other guys that we worked with, who was also in the same department as me. I'll never forget his name. It was great. Hene. So he would always sign his paychecks Hene squared. I thought that was just the coolest fucking thing ever. I can never forget that name. So he's originally from Manila. That's back when Filipino nationals could join the U.S. military, and then afterwards they'd have their citizenship or whatever, I don't know, but they'd have very nice retirement compared to the standard of living in the Philippines. So he's like, why don't you guys come up for the weekend? Come with me, take the Victory Liner bus back to Manila for the weekend. I'll show you my 2 homes, because he owned 2 houses, and show you around there. Okay, my 2 roommates say great. And I say sure, but I'll have to take the bus back the next day because I have night watch that night. So, okay, not a problem. And we decide to go take the Victory Liner again. It's like dirt cheap for service members. You know, it must be sponsored by the government somehow or something at the time. It was, I don't know, ridiculously, stupidly cheap, like $4. You know, $2 if anything. It was crazy cheap. And I'm like, okay, I got that much money just spend to go to Manila, see if it, you know, never been there. See if I want to go there and actually spend some time there or something, you know, or, you know, for all I know, it could be my last time ever there, which it was. And we go there, and I'm like, as long as the bus doesn't look like some 50s reject fucking death bus or a jeepney, I should be happy. Both jeepneys and the other buses suck. You know, you imagine, they're old, they're rickety, they're not very safe at all. Surprisingly, when we get there, they're modern coaches, you know, modern coach-looking buses, and with tall back seats and some type of cloth on them, not like cheap vinyl. And, you know, I'm like, wow, okay, we pay our nominal fee, get on the bus, and as we're getting on the bus, you know, there's vendors outside, just a crowd because it's, you know, Philippines, it's people everywhere. And we get on the bus and sit down, and everyone's got their assigned seats, and we're starting to get off, and backs out and starts to go. And one of the guys, one of the Filipinos that was across the street aisle from me, he's eating balut. Hene described him as best before the feathers get quills and before the beaks become too hard. They take the fertilized embryo egg, boil it, bury it in hot sand for like 30 days, pull it out, chip along the top. And I'm watching them do this. You know, I've heard about this. This is a hazing ritual that they do for when people become E6 that's in the Philippines. E6 to E7, it's a hazing ritual. They make them eat balut and, you know, it's, you know. But these are Filipinos. It's like you picking up a hot dog at a street vendor in New York City and eating that walking down the street. Just not that big of a deal. Just don't make a fucking mess and get mustard on you. You know, but so he takes the egg and chips around the top, pulls off the cap, and takes a little salt packet and rips off and puts some salt on. And they're always, from what I understand, they're always head up like this. And then they start to eat it and just crunch and eat it all down and suck out. And yep, grossest fucking thing I ever saw someone eat. And I ate dog. So I mean, and that shit was, balut is by far the grossest thing. But to their culture, it's just normal food. And it's like, oh. Then now knowing more about it, it makes sense. A lot of the Asians are lactose intolerant. You can't get calcium. There's not a lot of milk and cows running around because of that. So you still need calcium as an adult. You need some amounts of it. And if you don't eat the proper plants, how else you get the calcium? Well, you can eat eggshells. You can eat prematured bones. So they eat the bones of small animals and stuff in their diet just because that traditionally, because that naturally gives them the bones and the calcium for their bones. You know, you are what you eat, I guess. That was just the grossest fucking thing I ever saw someone eat. And that's just as we just start, you know, just backed up out of the stall and we're starting to go and going through the city. Well, through Subic Bay. It's not, I guess it's a city, but man, it's a town. Fuck it, it's a town. If that. You know, it's the slums. Everything's the slums there. At least at the time when we were there, is right after Mount Pinatubo erupted, so there's ash everywhere, and I'll get to that. We going down, say, get up around the city and go up the mountains because it's in a bowl shape, and it's surrounded by a mountain range on all sides almost. And we come up over the city, and we're coming out the other side, and it's not really steep mountains, not like Rocky Mountains or Smoky Mountains. They're just more than hills. I mean, they're sharp rocks. It's like Hawaii is mountainous, you know. It's like that. It's the island mountains. And we come up over the top and coming down the other side, and wham! Our fucking bus smashes into the back of a truck. The whole front of the bus is caved in. We're dead stop. Like, great. What the fuck is this going on, you know? Everyone's fine, you know, the buses do their job. But it's like, okay, now we have to wait for the next bus to come by because evidently they ain't got no radio that can transmit from bus to bus back then in the 90s. I don't know. Mountains, I guess. I don't fucking know. So, but don't worry, next bus comes by about every hour and a half. And we can just hop on that one. Okay, so we're waiting. And it's like, well, shit, I want a cigarette. Well, you can't smoke on the bus. Why, this bus is totaled. It's never going anywhere again. Okay, me and the other two white boys and Hene squeeze out the front, which the front is all caved in, so that little door that goes and slides open. Yeah. It just goes, ee! And it didn't move at all, so, but the other guys I'm with, I mean, one of them's pretty fucking big, strong builder, because we're Seabees, and he just fucking, he pushes it all the way back. He's a steel worker, and glass shatters and crushes, and still it's, you know, only, that's enough you can squeeze by, and, you know, I scratched my finger on it, on the glass door. Yeah, that was bad. No, not at all. That's the only injury I had. And then we walked outside on the side, and we're smoking a cigarette, and we're just talking. We're like, dude, I can't believe this is how we start our trip to fucking Manila, you know, and we're like, yeah, blah, 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 and we're just shooting the shit. And then coming up from the backside down the hill, comes another truck, a stake truck. A stake truck is a six-wheel truck. There's 2 axles in the back, or 3-axle trucks, 2 in the back, 1 in front, and these are all dualies, 2 dualies. One, I think of like a big pickup truck, but it has the wooden sides on it that also fold down and you can sit on them. And they were all sitting on them there, and they pulls up and there's like 8 or 10 guys with camouflage on, long greasy hair, long beards, holding M16s and AKs. Wow, mixed rifles, neat. And Hene goes, get back on the bus. This is not Filipino Army, that NPA, which is National People's Army. These are one of the extremist groups that happened to be killing Americans literally in Subic Bay that whole month and time before. So we're like, great, get back on the bus. And if I'm not exceedingly tall, I'm just under 6 feet. The other guys are bigger and taller, and Nene is, Filipino short, 5'4". Americans are roughly about 6 feet. Filipinos are not. They're like 5'6". That means everyone stands out like this. You walk up on the bus, and it's full of Filipinos. The bus looks like it's empty. As opposed to if it's full of tall white people or tall Americans, you see the heads and bopping around and shit. Fuck. Here's 3 white people on the bus, and these are the people looking, hunting for us. Then pull down the baseball cap, slide down in the seat as low as we can to try to get my head as high as the guy that's next to me, and still mimicking his movements in the window because they're walking around the bus too. So if he leans forward, I lean forward so that it looks the same, so that then they think it's him. And then one of them comes around the back of the bus, comes up the other side, pushes the door open, walks up onto the bus. And here's where it's lucky that they are lazy and not proper American troops. American troops would have done their job. But he walked up, looked, and walked back out. No, and he was saying to the other guy, and they get in their truck and drive away. As opposed to American soldier would have walked up, looked, and then walked all the way down to the back of the bus and back up, because that's his fucking job. That's what he was supposed to do. But because he didn't do his job, we didn't get killed. Oh, great. This ain't the end of the story, man. We've just left the town. We still got 2 to 4 more hours to go. This is getting exciting now. So the next bus shows up, and it's like an hour and a half late. And surprise, surprise, it's full already. There are no seats to sit in. So here's a bus load of people getting on a full bus load of people. So this bus now has double the bus load. Well, I'm exhausted, tired. I've been up partying all night and working all day, and this is military, so I had watch a couple times, and sleep is, you get like 2 to 4 hours, and you take little cat naps when you can. I planned on sleeping on the bus most of the way because that's what I always did in school, so why not? Well, you can't really sleep now because there's no damn seats. There's a strap here, or a bar, you can hold on to that so you don't fall over, but still, we're packed in tight because it's a bus load of people standing in the fucking aisle. And, well, that's where I found out that if you do it just right, you can lock your eyeball into your bicep while you're standing and stand just right. You can take a little cat nap for a few minutes while you're standing on a moving bus, your arms locked, and actually doze off enough to have like some vivid fucking dreams and shit and wake up. And I did that for about a good hour off and on, nap, and wake up, or fell once. That was that's like when a cat's sleeping on the counter and it rolls off. You know, it's the same fucking thing. And we're going for a while, and you know, we're taking an alternate route because the volcano erupted like 9 months earlier, which was devastating to everywhere. There was ash that's like concrete falling from the sky, you know, feet of concrete. These buildings aren't even designed for snow, much less the weight of concrete ash on the roof. So, because then it rained on top of it. So everything's collapsed, and then there's volcanic flood of lava because it was a huge lava flow too. And it burned towns, and one part, the bus, as it's driving, had to go slower because it's not on the road anymore. It's driving across lava, dried lava flow. It's not like it was red hot. But it's not like it was painted either or had cones or anything. They just kind of knew where the road used to be, so that's kind of where they were driving still. And you think, oh, well, maybe there was already tracks worn, and no, not yet. I'm sure there is now. You know, I'm sure that they repaved over it and did something else by now, and I'm sure there was tracks maybe like a year afterwards, but not at this early stage. I'm just like, wow, it's like snowmobiling over black asphalt, I guess. You can't see shit, and you're just going. And I'm like, this must really suck at night, you know, because they're doing that in the same place where there used to be a town. They said they had to slow down for the lava, which let us as tourists look out the windows and ooh and ah. The locals looked out the windows and cried. So we go in, and they have the lava flow is coming through the side of one of the buildings, and all that's left is the bricks. The bricks for the building, and no roof, just the brick walls, and you can see where the lava came through the back and piled up and came around the sides at an angle, and everything else is burned out. And I mean, we're all Seabees, so construction and building and seeing the lava destroying a building like that was amazing to us to see that the bricks actually survived the heat of the lava, even though, well, they've already been recooked and burnt out, but we figured that lava is melting rock. Figured it would melt that or break that apart, but on this house it didn't. You know, that was quite amazing. And we get to Manila, and eventually, which was the most tiresome trip ever. As you can imagine, I'm exhausted already. And let me tell you, the air pollution was so bad, my eyes burned, just burned, and it's like, good God. And that's just from the car exhaust and pollution. And then the road is like marked with 5 lanes, but traffic is going 7 to 9 lanes, because evidently they think the lines on the road are just pretty decorations to make the road look nice, because no one fucking pays any attention. They're just going any which way, any speed. One guy's slower, faster. A guy in a little small car goes across, and another bus is passing our bus, and they're passing by fucking just inches, you know, and it's like, wow, this is how they normally drive and do this shit. And I'm just like, I could never live here. You know, that was it. And the bus then got to its place and parked, and we got off the bus, and that was the first half of the bus ride. If you guys subscribe, stay tuned. You can find out more when I tell more stories about the Philippines, like what I saw and did in there. I got offered to be what now guess they call a white monkey. At the time, they were hiring people to be TV stars. And if I had more time on vacation, well, my life could have been totally fucking different, you know. But we'll see y'all then. Puff, puff, pass. No parking on the grass. I'm out of here.